We'll wrap it up here with some tight ends there. I mean, if you want to give me five, go for it, because I know that's how we've been doing it so far. But I know tight ends typically take a little longer to translate. They're not as fantasy viable, at least as rookies. But is there any two or three? If you want to give me five, go for it. But who are some tight ends you love this year?
Just going back to like the Senior Bowl, like Tre McBride from Colorado State. He looks like a complete tight end. Dulcich from UCLA is a great athlete, like who could really move well. This is not a great tight end class by any stretch. So, we could start with them. I think McBride, though, has a chance to come in and probably be like the most impactful of that group.
Yeah, he's ranked at the top of most fantasy lists here. I'd love to see him go play somewhere like Justin Herbert or some of that nature at San Diego, maximize that vertical ability out of the seam. Would be great to see. Now, if we're kind of boiling down, we've covered all the positions here, but if you were a fantasy owner and you had your rookie draft coming up, you had to make your first overall pick. Who's the first guy, without knowing where players have landed quite yet, but if you had to draft today, which rookie would you bet your money on as having the biggest impact in 2022?
Garrett Wilson, and not because of the long-term upside, but I think he's so polished. You don't see him drop the ball. He's a great route runner, very strong, very productive yards after catch. Him and Drake London, Drake London as a freshman played basketball for USC, so he's an above-the-rim player. I comp London to Mike Evans. I think he's a point scorer, which obviously translates really well to fantasy.
Yeah, exactly. They're often going in the top three of fantasy drafts, and for good reason. Again, I have both those guys 1, 2 in my receiver ranking, so we're in lockstep here with all that. And then we'll wrap it up with your biggest sleeper of the entire draft of any offensive position. Who's going to be a guy drafted late that you think you feel really strongly
about? If we go back to Matt Corral for a second, just from the value that he brings, He got hurt in his last game. There's been some questions about his maturity, but if you look at Pickett, Willis, and him, it's very likely that he's going to be the best quarterback in this year's draft. And I don't think he goes higher than 32. So I think he's a little bit of a sleeper from a standpoint of he's a guy that, to me, won't go where he should. And when it's all said and done, he very well could be the best guy. I would have said Carson Strong before the Senior Bowl, but I thought in those inclement conditions, he didn't drive the ball the way I had hoped he was going to. So that's probably, the only other quarterback is this Bailey Zappi, who had an incredible year of production. But his arm isn't a big time arm. But if you're going to take a shot on a guy, you take on a guy that set all sorts of records in his one season at Western Kentucky.
Awesome, Mike. Well, thank you so much for joining here. I guess I got one more minute before our allotted time, so feel free to pass on this question. But I got to ask, is there any war room draft day stories, anything of that nature that stands out to you as either the wildest, the funniest, the craziest? Anything you'd like to share before we head out here?
Yeah, it's a story of preparation. Laramie Tunsil, 2016, unfortunately, a video comes out of him. We were prepared. He's a great person, made a mistake. We were able to capitalize on the opportunity to get the best player on the board at 13, despite him being number one on our board.
Yeah, I remember that. What a draft that was. The value and what a player he's turning out to be. So great stuff. Well, Mike, is there anything you'd like to promote before heading out here? Any reminders of where our listeners can connect with you and find all your good stuff out there?
Yeah, at Real Tannenbaum on Twitter. And so I really appreciate you having me. I'm glad that you're a Boston sports fan, and it's been great to be part of being on with you.
Awesome. Well, really appreciate you giving us the time today, Mike. Have a great rest of your weekend, and thanks again.
All right, thank you.
What is up, you fantasy wolf? Thanks so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, share your thoughts in the comments, check out some more videos, and join the newest Wolfpack by subscribing below.